Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 5th of April, 2022. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So, just an update on yesterday around Elon Musk taking that massive stake in Twitter that I spoke about. The current CEO of Twitter, Parag Agrawal, I think that's how you say his name here, announced that Elon has actually joined Twitter's board. So this was announced only, I'm recording this 20 minutes after this was announced. This is a very recent thing. I'm not surprised that all of this happened. It makes sense that Twitter's largest shareholder would be on the board. And then, Elon replied to Parag's tweet here and said, looking forward to working with Parag and Twitter board to make significant improvements to Twitter in the coming months. And Elon also had a poll out today asking if people wanted an edit button, which is obviously something that people have asked about on Twitter for a very long time. Obviously this isn't directly related to crypto, but I think that we all spend so much time on crypto Twitter. I live on it, that it kind of like will have an impact here. I'm really wondering kind of what implications this has for crypto in terms of what integrations there's going to be. I hope it's not just Elon basically integrating Doge and that's it. I hope that we go further than that. As I discussed yesterday, I think there's a bunch of things that can be done here besides something like that simple. But Twitter's already doing that sort of stuff. Like, as I mentioned yesterday, since Jack Dorsey left, they've just been a very different company, which is good. I didn't like Twitter under Jack Dorsey, even though he's the founder. He became, it's funny because he literally became like one of those other Bitcoin maximalists you see on Twitter, just like a shit posting about things and calling everything except Bitcoin a scam and stuff like that. It's kind of crazy to see like someone like Jack become that, but whatever, that's in the past now. Going forward, I really do look forward to seeing what changes Elon can input here, because he spends a lot of time on Twitter. He's obviously got a bunch of companies that he's founded, obviously very successful entrepreneur. So I'm hoping that the ideas he puts forward are good ones. As I said, I'm hoping it's not just the Doge integration. Like, that would just be super disappointing and it wouldn't really get us anywhere. But yeah, I'm gonna keep paying attention to this and obviously keep talking about it. But just wanted to kind of mention that as a follow up to yesterday. All right, so some very, very big news out of the United Kingdom yesterday, and this came out shortly after I put out yesterday's refuel. But basically, the United Kingdom or UK Treasury has outlined a plan to regulate stablecoins and issue an NFT, and they've gone, even further than that. And it seems like they're taking a very friendly approach to crypto in general. From what I've read, it seems like they really want to be at the forefront of crypto and basically make the UK a crypto hub again, specifically London. London was a big financial hub for a very long time. I think it kind of got overshadowed through the years by other kind of like cities around the world and stuff, but it's still a major financial hub, don't get me wrong. But this is very positive. It's funny because people were saying, oh look, finally a positive of Brexit. Now, I don't have a view on Brexit. It didn't really concern me, but obviously the UK kind of like Britain left the EU a little while ago, and there's people kind of been like, okay, why did it leave? Like, this is just pointless. All these kind of like deals are off the table now, and like people that didn't think it was a good idea, and then obviously there were people who thought it was a good idea. That's why it kind of like happened. But on top of that, there was also I think last week I spoke about it, the EU coming out and basically saying that they were going to regulate crypto very heavily, that they weren't taking a friendly approach to it, and then you have the UK coming out and being like, you know what, we're going to take a friendly approach to crypto, and basically in direct opposition to what the EU is doing. Now, it's funny because like you kind of think to yourself, is the UK only doing this because they want to oppose what the EU is doing, specifically because this news has come out so soon after the EU's own news around crypto? I'm sure there's an element of that, but at the same time, I saw that Kobe has actually been in contact with some of the relevant people within the UK kind of like government, or I guess like around the UK, maybe not within the UK government. I think there was a law firm or someone who kind of like does policy advocating and lobbying and stuff like that, or some group that does that. Kobe's, I saw on Twitter, has been in contact with them, so he's kind of like had a hand there. But yeah, it just seems like a very positive development out of the UK here. And you got some quotes here from some people in the government that say, we want to see the businesses of tomorrow and the jobs they create here in the UK, and by regulating effectively, we can give them the confidence they need to think and invest long term. And then they're also issuing an NFT, which is pretty cool, and stuff like that. So yeah, it seems that they really want to be a forward-looking place for crypto. They really want to embrace it. They want to do the exact opposite of what the EU is doing, and it's very, very positive. And the funny thing is like, I remember a few weeks ago, you guys requested that I talk about regulations and kind of like my view on crypto and my view on governments banning it and whatnot. And I think one of the things I said then was that you're going to find that some governments or some regulatory bodies are going to be harsher than others, and then others will go the complete opposite direction. That's exactly what we're seeing here. The EU seems to be, want to be very harsh with crypto, want to come down hard on it, and then the UK comes out and says, well, no, we're going to embrace this. We think it's a technology that has a lot of long-term viability, and we want to be at the forefront of all the innovation. So yeah, there's no point kind of like saying that all the governments in the world are going to ban crypto, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Like, there are going to be different approaches depending on which government it is. And, some of the traditionally friendly jurisdictions that people have kind of like talked about before, like Singapore, is actually turning a bit of a kind of like taking the turn for the worse there, and they seem to be clamping down on crypto as well. And people thought Singapore was like still do to some extent, but they were kind of like bullish on Singapore because of the fact that there was 0% capital gains tax, from what I understand. And there's only very few places in the world that kind of like have that and that are desirable to live. And the places that do are slowly introducing capital gains tax anyway, because they realize that their kind of like country is literally just a tax haven and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of like, it's going to be interesting to see what the world looks like in 10 years, because it's going to take a while for this to play out. But, which countries and which kind of like government bodies and which regulations, which nation states have embraced crypto, and which ones have kind of like heavily regulated it and basically forced all the innovation out of the respective jurisdiction, and how do they fare in terms of like economic output, employment, opportunity, all that sort of stuff. I mean, I obviously am taking the bet, and will always take the bet, that the countries that embrace crypto as an ecosystem, as an industry, are going to do very, very well over the next 10, 20, 30 years, just like the ones that embraced the internet did very, very well. And looking at other countries like America, it seems like it's funny, because if you look at the regulatory bodies in America and you look at them in a vacuum, so look at the SEC, they're really, really shitty, right? I've talked about the SEC before, and I've talked about how they kind of like have a really crappy view of crypto right now. Gary Gensler doesn't seem to be very friendly towards it. But then you look at the other regulatory bodies, and they seem to be much friendlier. And I actually think like America's going to come out pretty positive in the end with crypto. I think they're going to keep doing well. I think slowly the SEC will, Gary Gensler will get pushed out, and there'll be a new SEC chair, and they'll, more likely than not be crypto friendly, just because the other regulatory bodies out there are already crypto friendly, and they want to be aligned on everything, and it's just kind of like better to do that, especially as an administration. I mean, Biden signed that executive order, which is actually a positive thing, about kind of like doing more research into crypto before regulating it, making sure people have a chance to kind of give feedback and all that sort of stuff there. So yeah, anyway, really, really bullish news out of the UK here. I'm super excited about this. I hope that my own country follows suit here. Australia, with their kind of like, I guess, like regulatory work, and just like anything in general, we seem to follow other Western countries, especially, the US and the UK and other Western parts of Europe. So I think that we'll be all right as long as the US and UK and other parts of Western Europe are all right as well with crypto. So I'm very much looking forward to that. But Australia's actually not been too bad. Even though they're a follower, they haven't tried to kind of like do anything egregious towards crypto. The tax situation is still, broken as hell, just like it is in pretty much everywhere in the world. Doing crypto taxes is just the worst thing in the world, no matter where you are right now. I don't know of any country that actually has it easy to do crypto taxes. And the funny thing is, from what I understand, that even though there's 0% capital gains taxes in places like Singapore and a few other places there, you still have to kind of like document your trades and document your investments and kind of like file that as part of your tax return. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but like from my understanding, that's still how it is, and that stuff is still quite difficult. So yeah, I'm curious to see which country actually sorts out that first, and that would actually attract a fair few people to their borders, and they would be happy to pay the tax as long as they understood how to pay it, and then have to go through all the headache of kind of like calculating and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, going to leave it at that. Very, very cool to see the UK embrace crypto, and I'll be keeping an eye on what happens here. All right, so I put out this tweet just before, basically a very basic tweet, and I've talked about this on the Refuel plenty of times, but I wanted to touch on it again today, where I said, easy mode, outperforming USD, hard mode, outperforming ETH. And obviously I'm talking about investing in the markets, not necessarily kind of like trading. And I think, as I said, I've talked about this a lot before, but I wanted to add a bit more context here. Outperforming USD is not hard to do, especially when USD is inflating so much, especially when USD is programmed to lose its purchasing power over time, given that it's inflationary. You can outperform USD very, very easily by literally just buying an index fund, not even in crypto, outside of crypto, the S&P 500, for example. You can buy that, and on average, you'll return 8 to 10% a year and outperform, USD. Now, that's not obviously factoring in inflation and stuff like that, but you're making a gain against USD. Factor in inflation. I mean, inflation has been traditionally high now. But factor all that in, you're still kind of like outperforming, even if it's only a little bit. But on the flip side, if you're benchmarking against ETH as a crypto asset, especially if you're investing in crypto, as I've mentioned plenty of times, it's extremely hard to outperform ETH over the long term. Short term, you actually can, and you can outperform ETH a lot in the short term if you catch the right waves. But if you're a long-term investor and you want to invest in something and kind of like hold it for a while and outperform ETH in a big way, it's going to be very hard, because if you look back at the golden kind of like children from DeFi summer, those DeFi tokens back then that everyone was super bullish on, that actually in the short term very much outperformed ETH by a lot, they've been absolutely crushed against ETH. And I always go back to examples such as the YFI token. That, I believe, got to 110 ETH per YFI. So if you could trade one at the top, you could trade one YFI token for 110 ETH. Crazy, right? Guess what it is today. It's around 6 or 7 ETH. So you can only trade one YFI for 6 or 7 ETH today. Whereas back in, I believe it was at the top, I believe it was maybe September 2020 or something like that, you could have gotten 110 ETH for it. Now, obviously, you have to time that top, and not many people did, but it's just kind of like illustrates my point that it's crazy how much they can underperform. Because, for example, the reason why things underperform ETH so easily is because if you buy something and it goes up against kind of like USD and ETH in the short term, and then ETH suddenly wakes up and starts going up, and then the token you bought actually goes down in USD, not only is it going down in USD, it's going down against ETH, and ETH is going up, which means you're getting hit with a double whammy, because you're basically, I mean, everyone who's got that coin is probably selling it to chase the ETH pump. A lot of the traders would be doing so. So it's going down against USD and ETH, and then ETH is going up. So it's just a crazy amount of underperformance there. And that's primarily the number one reason why it's so hard to outperform ETH. But I think there's a lot of other things that go into this as well, such as ETH just having the best tokenomics out of anything in crypto. Like, I believe as an asset, ETH, it has the most reason to appreciate out of anything in crypto. It doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin, if it's another L1, or if it's another kind of token out there. And we're talking about the gravity of our performance. Obviously, a token that has a $10 million market cap can go 10x very easily, whereas 10x for ETH would be kind of much harder to do. But I'm talking about like actual long-term value accrual to it. I mean, look at ETH's tokenomics, right? It's a staking token. It's a fee token where the fees get burned. It's used as collateral within DeFi. It's a store of value. It's a money. I mean, we have an issue introduction coming up. Like, and not only is it the fees being burned, tens of millions of dollars worth of ETH is being burned every day via those fees. So when you take all that into account, there's literally nothing else out there that has the tokenomics of ETH. And not only does it not have the tokenomics of ETH, because anyone could copy ETH's tokenomics, it doesn't have that value accrual. Like, any network could spin up and basically be like, okay, we're a staking fee token, we burn the fees, you can use this as collateral, you can use this as a store of value in money, but people wouldn't, right? There's very few things that people use as money in crypto, and ETH is one of them. Majority of the money use in crypto is stablecoins, but ETH is used within the NFT ecosystem a lot as money, and obviously being used to pay fees, which again you can't fake, especially burning them, because you would have to burn tens of millions of dollars a day to fake that, which obviously barely anyone can afford to do for very long, even the biggest whales in this ecosystem. So that's why those are the two main reasons why it's hard to outperform ETH. One, because you get hit with a double whammy if you've held something and then ETH starts going up against it and it starts going down. And two, just ETH's tokenomics are the best in the ecosystem. It's not even close, to be honest, guys. Like, it really isn't. In terms of like longevity of the tokenomics as well, because the fees have been high since DeFi summer. It's been almost 2 years since the fees started being really, really high, because Compound started DeFi summer in June 2020, where in April, it's literally almost been 2 years. And I think for a month or two, maybe gas got to single digits again, but mostly it's been, at least over 20 Gwei, which would put us at in that deflationary post-merge anyway. So taking all that into account, you see why ETH just outperforms, even though ETH is a much larger market cap and won't give you like a 10x within 6 months, for example. But over the long term, I believe it will, will go up 10x. I believe it's going to go to 100k long term, and long term being 5-10 years sort of thing. And I believe 10k it could happen way sooner than any of us think. Like it could happen this year, guys. Like there's no reason in my mind why it can't. 10k is not very far from here, especially because we have all these bullish catalysts coming up with the merge and continued scaling and stuff like that, and the narrative getting much better around ETH. You guys know this. I'm literally preaching to the choir, but I felt like it was worth repeating. But again, not investment advice. Like I'm not going to go tell you not to buy something because it might outperform ETH or what to buy to outperform ETH. Like honestly, I don't even do much public market investing these days because of the fact that I find it hard to outperform ETH as well. Like the way I look at it is if I have money and I want to buy something on the public markets, I really just buy ETH. If I buy anything else, I kind of like, I don't like holding much else because of the fact that it's very hard to kind of like time those tops and bottoms against USD, let alone against ETH. And I'd rather just kind of like, play it safe and buy some ETH, get another 32 ETH, and then stake it for, stake another validator. Like that's kind of like my jam. But everyone has their own situation. Everyone's very unique in what they do. And my situation doesn't necessarily map to yours. It probably doesn't, right? Like I'm in a very different position here. But yeah, just a bit of kind of like, as I said, not advice, but just a bit of kind of like context around this tweet that I put out. I hope you guys got value out of that there. But anyway, moving on to the next update here, or at least a tweet from Suzuha, who said, IMO, there is a huge amount of information asymmetry around Ethereum proof of stake. The average response I get from tech people on here is that ETH proof of stake is theoretical and will never happen. It isn't common knowledge that it has been running for 1.5 years now and is about to be merged. I mean, again, preaching to the choir here, guys. You know this. I've told you guys so many times that the amount of people who actually understand, I guess, the merge, the implications of the merge, the issue introduction, the fact that there's going to be that at least 6 month dead zone period of no new ETH coming to market is tiny. Then factor in the amount of people who actually realize that Ethereum proof of stake is live as part of the beacon chain and has been live for 1.5 years. Again, small group of people. Then factor in the amount of people who actually believe that the merge is going to happen and go through successfully. A small set of people as well. It's just, I saw a tweet from DC Investor the other day who said the same thing, where he said, I underestimated a kind of like how bullish the merge would be and how kind of like good it would be from the Ethereum narrative. And that's the thing. Like I've been telling you guys that a lot of people are underestimating this because they really did believe that a lot more people were aware of this sorts of stuff. But like to contextualize this for you, 99% of people in this ecosystem will get their information from really, really shitty sources. And these sources will not give them accurate information, will not talk about the things that I talk about, especially not in depth. All they're going for is the clickbait sound bites, thumbnails, titles that can get them the most viewers so they can shill their referral links, shill their shitcoins, and kind of like make their money that way. And if you kind of like look at the view count of what my videos get versus what someone like a BitBoy gets, it's a huge difference. So when you factor into account that a lot of people, especially the new people into this ecosystem, have zero context and all they see when they use Ethereum is the high fees, and then they kind of like see these other chains that are advertising lower fees, they probably think, Ethereum's a scam. It's kind of like milking me dry. Yes, it makes no sense when you kind of like learn more about Ethereum and you realize it, and it makes no sense to us who know these things, but to the casual new observer, right, they kind of like have a sour experience. Now, obviously, we're alleviating this with layer 2s and things like that, but I mean, we can't expect people to realize, especially new people, to realize all of this stuff. And that's another reason why I'm so bullish, is that they will in time. I think as more people learn about this sorts of stuff, especially the bigger money, they'll come in, they'll stake their ETH, they'll realize the implications of the merge, they'll want to keep stacking ETH because they'll realize not only is there obviously the merge, but there's the burning of the fees, there's all the other stuff I talk about, and yeah, I think eventually people clue in, but by the time they clue in, the alpha, I think the alpha is still there a lot right now, but it's funny because the alpha was it was much bigger alpha in 2019 to buy ETH and then realize, how big DeFi could get, realize that, the merge was eventually coming, ETH was going to be proof of stake, realize that ETH was becoming like a money and a store of value. Obviously, buying ETH back then between $100 and $200 was much more profitable, or at least has been more profitable than buying it like $2,000. But still, there is a lot of alpha to be had in just kind of being on top of these things and realizing that these things kind of like exist there. But yeah, it's a great tweet from Suzuha here today. All right, another tweet here from Vance Spencer, another great tweet where he says, the 2021 narrative was that alt L1s have solved blockchain scaling, ETH 2.0 is too little too late. The 2022 narrative is now alt L1s haven't been able to scale, most all of them have structural issues, ETH 2.0 plus rollups are the most viable to scale blockchains in the near term. Funny how things change. Obviously, I agree with this, and it really is funny how the narrative changes. I would say that there are rather large cohorts of people that still think that Ethereum's design, the modular design with rollups and all that sort of stuff, is not the best way forward. There's a lot of people who think that Avalanche has the best scaling design with subnets, which boggles my mind because subnets are literally just sidechains and they've been around for a very long time. There's nothing innovative there. And I get that Avalanche has their own consensus mechanism, stuff like that. But guys, that doesn't, to me, that doesn't move the needle at all. To me, that doesn't really mean anything. And I don't think it really means anything for scalability. And then obviously there's like the Solanas of the world where they're taking a completely different approach where they're kind of like, we're going to do everything at layer one, and they've got like a bunch of people on there who believe in that vision. And it's fine to believe in that vision, but I think they're wrong, obviously. And I think the Ethereum scaling vision is right. But just to kind of like Vance's tweet here, what he's talking about when he talks about like kind of like structural issues is, for example, Solana not being able to handle the load because they have no fee market and the bots just spam the network and the network falls over. And now they're talking about implementing a fee market. And I've casually joked to some friends that I feel like Solana over the long term is just going to end up looking like Ethereum because they're just going to rediscover all of the issues that Ethereum has already been aware of and walk back a lot of their design decisions to basically fix their blockchain. And those design decisions being, unlimited throughput for everyone at layer one, not embracing layer twos, completely centralizing with data centers and stuff like that, which is very, very hard to walk back, mind you. But yeah, a lot of that kind of like stuff going on. And there's other ones like Avalanche on the C chain, given that it's a Geth fork, it hit scaling limits when they reached the gas limit on there, and basically the fees went up, and then they just increased the gas limit, which you guys know is not a great kind of long-term solution, but they did that. And the fees came down again. The fees are still relatively kind of like high on them, not as cheap as they used to be on those chains. And then other issues around kind of like the Cosmos ecosystem, I believe, with like cross-chain stuff and people being bearish on cross-chain but bullish on multi-chain. There are these things that exist today. Whether they can be fixed or not in the future remains to be seen. Everyone's taking their bets on different things. I obviously believe that the Ethereum scaling roadmap, the modular roadmap, and not just for Ethereum, but for other chains out there. Tezos is embracing the modular roadmap. Obviously, Celestia is doing it as well. I believe that's the best long-term scaling solution, and I think a lot of more people are cluing into that. And I think people have kind of gone bearish on some of these L1s, but these L1s now have large war chests. They're spending lots of money on gaining developers and developer mindshare, on liquidity mining and stuff like that. So they'll be around for a while. But yeah, it's just funny how quickly the narrative changes. And I think that with the L2s being live, people being able to use the L2s and them actually working and them being relatively cheap, especially compared to Ethereum L1, it just further changes the narrative. And as soon as these L2s have tokens, guys, like, it's going to get even wilder. Like, the narrative is going to completely change. Everyone's just going to be shilling these L2 tokens, and I think that the L1s will probably lose out just based on the narrative war as well, because everyone's going to be like, well, I can own ETH, I can own these L2 tokens. Why do I care about these other L1 tokens and kind of like stuff like that? So yeah, that's it is what it is like that now, and we'll see what the narrative continues to be throughout the rest of this year. All right, so actually, I'm going to save this to the end. There's a couple of other things I wanted to get through first. So Danny Ryan published a blog post today, or at least kind of, I guess, added to the blog post about the client incentive program, about the going through the full technical details of how the Ethereum Foundation's client incentive program will work. Now, you guys will remember that the client incentive program was something that the Ethereum Foundation spun up in order to give a total of 144 validators of 4,608 ETH to each client team to operate on mainnet. And this is a way to basically keep them aligned. It has vesting and stuff like that, and get them incentivized to keep building good mainnet software. And now, as Danny Ryan says here, full technical details of how this all works have been added to the blog post here. So if you're interested in kind of reading through this, you can. It'll be linked in the YouTube description below. And speaking of core protocol development, Lighthouse has a new release today. So if you're running the Lighthouse client, this is actually a major release. This release implements something called Proposer Boost, which is an incentives improvement that also mitigates an attack. They're saying the release is low priority besides kind of, I guess, the Proposer Boost feature. But you can update in the coming weeks. The attack isn't critical, but the network needs to be patched here. So if you're running Lighthouse, be sure to update your validator. It's actually quite easy as a solo staker to update your validator. You literally just restart it, and it just auto updates in the background there. So yeah, very, very easy to do that there. All right, finally here, we have a really great thread from Wesley, who has put together a bunch of links and resources to help you get around and explore Amsterdam if you're heading to EFDevconnect. Now, obviously, I am heading to EFDevconnect, and I'm kind of like going to make use of this thread and a bunch of other threads that he kind of linked to in his thread. And what I really like is that he kind of circled the areas here of where you should stay in Amsterdam. It's probably going to be hard to find accommodation this close to the event now, but I'm staying in this area as well. I'm staying like near where the canals are in one of the hotels there. I'm not going to dox, I'm not going to dox myself completely there, but I'm staying in one of the hotels there. But yeah, I'll be around. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure the venues are kind of like one of them's right in the heart of Amsterdam here, like right in the center, and then the other one's off to kind of like the right in the near the Eastern Docklands part, or near the kind of like Nemo Science Museum there. So guys, like, I am super pumped for Amsterdam. As you guys know, it's my first real kind of like conference, or first Ethereum conference since ETHDenver 2020. So it's been over 2 years. I am so excited to meet all the people that I've made friends with over the past couple of years in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm so excited to just vibe with ETH people again. I'm speaking at a bunch of events. I'm judging the ETH Amsterdam kind of like hackathon. And I've told you guys my schedule before, which events I'm going to. I'm just really, really pumped. And I hope a lot of you guys are going to be there, a lot of the listeners. If you are, definitely come find me at one of the events that I'm going to be at. DMing me for like a beer or to kind of like catch up is probably going to be very hard. My DMs are already a mess, and I'm probably not going to be checking my phone very often while I'm at the conference. So yeah, just come up to me. I'm going to be wearing my hat. You'll be up. I have the beard and everything. I have my look going. It'll be very easy to spot me. But yeah, feel free. Don't be shy. Literally come up to me, say hey, and you know, we can catch up and meet and all that sort of stuff there. But yeah, as I said, very much looking forward to this. And I think the funny thing is, I was looking at the rest of the conferences for the year. I'm undecided about which ones I'm going to go to. I'm definitely going to try and get to DevCon in October. But besides that, I don't know which other ones I want to go to, because being in Australia, to travel to both Europe and the US is usually 20 plus hours of travel time. And if it's only going to be for a 2 or 3 day conference, then it's kind of pointless. So either I make a holiday out of it, and just do the conference and then kind of go on a holiday with my fiance or something, or there are other back-to-back events around it. That's why I kind of like DevConnect here, is because basically there's a lot of events. It's kind of like a week-long thing, and then I can enjoy Amsterdam, and then after that as well, I'm actually going to be going to Paris for 3 days too, before flying home. So that, you know, and Europe's good like that because everything's so close. But anyway, I'm rambling there. Definitely check out this thread from Wesley if you are going to Amsterdam. But I think that's it for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.